All right, finally we got a new episode. Feels like a while.
Been a whole week.
It's only been a week. We got 3 at once, so then it was just like grueling to wait. But
super grueling.
So, all right. It's funny. You notice things a little late, and then like while they're being revealed in the episode, like you want to have reactions. I almost wish we did live reactions to this so I could give myself little pats on the back, because then it will reveal things that you guessed in the episode, and you'll be like, no, wait till the next episode so I can say on the channel, this is what I think's gonna happen, and you know. But anyways, so the episode started and we got the opening credits, and I was noticing, and I think this is because we rewatched The Mandalorian recently, and they show you kind of all the artists' renditions, like all the art that they had made for them to adapt to the screen, and they'll do that at the very end of the episode. And I was just thinking when the drawings were coming on the screen, I was like, oh, well, what if those drawings are what if, I'm not sure where I'm lying with this right now, but my first initial thought was like, what if Victor has brought this place to life through his drawings, right? We've seen this in a number of things, you know, where somebody's creations on the page come to life, whether it be in The Mouth of Madness, or whether it be even from something like Tales from the Hood, which I know you've never seen, but you know, there's tons of that kind of stuff out there. So I definitely think that, I mean, we basically get confirmation of that in this, right? We get confirmation that it is Victor's drawings, because I was like, ooh, it's probably some kid, this and that, and it's like, yes, it's Victor. And he is illustrating what he's seen, or he's illustrating something and then it's coming to fruition. So it could be one or the other. In one of his drawings, I'm not remembering it, so you can remind me if this has happened already, but it's a real quick shot, so it might be a little, you know, teaser for what's to come. And if it is, then we know that it's a future drawing, but it's some building on fire.
Yeah, I don't think that hasn't happened yet, but we did see that.
Okay, so now that might have happened in his past.
Yes.
And we'll see that with Kid Victor, seeing a building burning. But if we see a similar building burning, we'll know that he's able to see the future or dictate the future.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Victor is the key. He seems to be the first resident of the void. Like, in the opening of this, when we see him as a kid and there's all the dead bodies, and then later we see all the dead bodies in the street, I can only assume that those were the residents of this town, and that something happened. Now Victor comes out of the bunker where the drug addict guy says that he saw the corpse with the boulder on him. So that's where he spent the night, came out of in the morning and saw the dead bodies. So something happened down there. Maybe the guy under the boulder is Victor's father. He unleashed something, and maybe Victor is this kid who had drawings, and it brought the drawings to life as he let it out, and Victor was drawing monsters and a town, but that's the only town that exists in his drawings. So that's the only world that there is.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm spitballing here off the top of my head. I didn't even think of any of this until right now.
It's definitely possible. There's something about his drawings that will be special for the show. Whether or not it's just he can see future events, or if, like you're speculating, he might be able to bring things to life. But it does seem like when we see Victor as a child, that is like the first instance of whatever these monsters are, because it does look like the entire town has been just completely killed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he says he's been alone.
Yes.
He was alone for a while, and Victor is now in his 50s.
At least.
And he was a 10.
Yeah.
So he's been there for 40 years, give or take. And when did the second person, who's the first person to come? Because the girl who runs the house
was there 3 years ago.
She says 3 years ago, and she says back then we used to just hide in the bushes.
Right.
But Victor's been in that town for 40 years.
Yeah, so what has he been doing? Hiding in the bushes too?
Is it possible, because of the locational void, which Kaylee called, and she can give herself a pat on the back, that people enter from all over the map? Someone's in California, someone's in New York, somewhere. So it's kind of moving, like the No End House in Channel Zero, right? It's like it pops up in different locations, and people are drawn to this. Now, I personally think people are drawn there by tragedy, because we have the family who lost their child, which we find out about Thomas, who died as a baby. And then we also got
the deputy.
The deputy's dealing with tragedy now.
Well, they were leaving. They were driving because I thought they were taking their father somewhere because of his condition, because he had dementia or Alzheimer's.
Right, so sadness is more of what I'm going with, right? So now we don't know if this sheriff's wife died. He's before or after. He says you paid like an ultimate price. So I would only assume that could mean that she died there.
That's what I took it as well.
Yeah.
That she died when they arrived to the town at some point. So.
It's almost like they're bringing them. It's almost like Victor's drawing in the pieces he needs. Like, you've got the one guy who is a software engineer, right? He's a software guy. And then you've got this new guy who comes into town who is an engineer. And they're both going to serve, some form of a purpose with their skills. Because the drug addict guy, I really should have wrote down people's names. I haven't committed them to memory yet, but I will. But he runs off with the radio. Now, there's stuff going on in here where the radio comes to life, and so does the jukebox within the diner, which it makes sense that if Victor was 40 years ago, we're in the 2020s, that'd be the 80s, the late 70s, early 80s when this took place. It's like a 50s diner kind of
time capsule.
Yeah, so what I was getting at before I kind of caught off track here, like I usually do, going back to giving you the credit for calling the locational warp of this joint, I'm wondering if there is some form of a time paradox as well, to where maybe Victor was there for 40 years, and then she comes and she's only been there for 3 years. I'm trying to figure this one out. Like
he's been there for that long, but other people have been there for shorter periods of time, but at different points in the town's existence.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about different times and when she could have came into there, but I guess that doesn't really work. I'm trying to think of how time could be distorted when people come in. But the people she's talking to know about the internet and everything. It's not like people are from different time periods. Their cars are all new and the town's old.
No, but they could be at different times in the town's existence, like I was saying, because we also get in this episode the introduction of these portals, which Victor shows the son that there's a hole in a tree in the woods, and he throws a rock into it, and the rock falls out of the sky, and he says that this isn't the first one that he's encountered, and that you could end up anywhere. So I feel like you could end up in a different time, if you went into one of those places without knowing what it was. I don't know if it's all trees, but with the woman who runs Colony House, if she's hiding in the woods and you find a tree that has a hole in it, it would make sense to go into it, which could also bring you to a different part, to a different time, right? That's what I would speculate. But we don't know enough about those other than just that he says that they exist. And what we get shown in this episode.
The only thing we know about the trees as of right now, he says one thing, but what the trees have shown us to be true at the moment is that they warp something within close proximity and within the same time zone.
That's all we've been shown, yeah.
That's all we've been shown as of yet. I sure as hell wouldn't step in that tree because that thing fell from the sky.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
So it is very convenient that he says you can put this will fall, this could end up anywhere and it just so happens to end up right behind them.
Yeah, I mean,
and it happens to fall into frame as opposed to like come out of something. Like it's a very convenient moment for the show.
I would have liked him to throw it in there and then to find it later on in the episode, like at a totally different part. But it is, I think, just to kind of illustrate like this is.
Yeah, it had to be done right.
It's a portal.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know because what are the odds they're gonna find it if it ends up somewhere? I mean, you're talking about how many square miles is this whole zone? Right. They're going to just find it in the middle of the woods, like 10 miles away? I mean,
we don't know. No way. We don't know how big it is, and that's what we were talking about in the last video, is has anybody tried to map out, like, the length of this phenomenon? And, I mean, Victor does tell us that the trees have moved 4 inches.
4 inches, yeah. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
He says that's a bad thing?
He says it's not, he says it's a bad thing.
I don't know why it's a bad thing, though.
The other thing I thought of with, like, the radio turning on and off, and I thought that the jukebox in the diner, I thought that maybe that was some kind of radio for a moment, because I don't know why all the other electricity seems to work, like the lights and everything works, but the jukeboxes wouldn't work all the time, because they're just, they have preloaded songs in them, right, for the most part, so I thought maybe those were some type of, like, mini radios that just looked, or a mini radio that just looked like a jukebox. So I was thinking that whenever the radio signal goes in and out is when that place is moving. Or when it's in a new location or something like that. Like that it has a tie into that.
It's picking up some kind of a frequency that is some kind of space-time movement. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I don't think this has anything to do, but I'm just going to mention it because... it's like one of those, there are no coincidences thing. But the 2 times now, which is during this episode, that we see something come to life randomly, and people are like, that happens from time to time. The deputy is in a very close proximity to both of those things. Now, I doubt that means anything, but he was standing next to the radio, and he walks in right after that's said. I think it's more interesting to note that the song that comes on the radio seems to strike a chord between the couple, which then leads to some form of a, bond being rekindled between them. Like, we're going to figure this out together after we'd already discussed earlier in this episode that the daughter called them out for getting a divorce. And then they seem to be at odds with one another. And then after that song comes on, in that moment, they are, brought back together. So I almost feel like it's, I feel like that song came on specifically for them in that moment. But by who and for why, I don't know. I mean, is it something that, like, I don't know. I was kicking things around in my head, like we were saying, like where Victor has created a time loop and even a a land loop, a location loop, where if anybody tries to get out, they just get looped right back onto it, and that's how the food's getting replenished. That's where the chickens and the cows come from, right? It's just being looped. And maybe, they have to stay in the house at night, so they're not going to see things getting re-looped in the nighttime. I don't see that. That's why. I'm just saying that would explain why they wouldn't notice.
Sure.
But they would notice. It's weird because then, like, we know that like anything that's affected stays affected, right? The blood's still on the walls. The guy in the cart is still, there mutilated. The cart, the little box he puts him in is all broken up, right? So, to what degree looped
is
things that are a necessity for them to live. It just seems like things are calling them there.
Well, I think that, like, if things like that are a necessity for them to live, it would make sense if they're being farmed. Like,
sure.
If the humans are being farmed, that they're, they would need food as well, right? But what you were saying earlier, too, about the jukebox and the couple, and obviously also the deputy, it doesn't happen quite as simultaneously, but right after they have that bonding moment is also when the waitress, who's a murderer, has a message appear on her arm telling her to kill the boy, and goes into a seizure. So all that happens around that weird flux with the jukebox turning on. So I don't know if there's a link between all of it or some of it, but that seemed interesting to me too.
So the frequency that's being sent through is how they're able to communicate with her cells to put that onto her arm in that moment.
But we don't know if that, because it doesn't stay on her arm. Yeah. So that could be entirely in her head.
If someone was standing next to her, would they have seen that on her arm? Or did she just see it?
We have no, but she sees it. But it goes away, She looks down again and it's gone. And then she seizes. So I don't know. I don't know how much of that is actually really happening. But, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of... I've seen that in all sorts of different things, whether it's in Nightmare on Elm Street, where they're, he's writing on the body, or in Exorcist, where there's, she's writing help from the inside, or, even with The Perfection, when she's seeing all the freaking bugs on her arm that, I won't say any more to that. Because if you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's great.
It is.
So yeah, I don't know. It could be in her head. Obviously, their voices are in her head, and what happens at night, it's kind of something we didn't really talk about in the first discussion of this. But like, the threat is that these beings outside, they sit outside and they get in your head, right? They try to talk to you, and I feel like these are vampires, right? Like, this is vampire-esque. From what we're getting, this is very vampire. They look like a vampire when they turn. They're, feasting off of humans' blood and some bit of their internal organs. They seem to clean them out.
Pain, too.
And they torture and they get off on it. But they also kind of, like... Because we had talked about... This reminded me of the Jimmy Glick Salem's Lot thing, where it's like outside the window, like, let me in.
Yeah, very much.
But there's almost like this hypnotic quality to them, right? It's like, I need you to invite me in, but they like the challenge, and as you said, I think it is. It's them drawing, because it would make sense, right? If that family dies, there's 3 people that are 2 people who are killed. Then a third comes, but then they bring people in. Yeah. That next day of all right, we killed a few, now we got to bring a few back in, and I do think they're drawn there. Whether or not they're picked randomly, I don't know, but I would assume there's a method to why they're picked and how they're able to be drawn there, like some kind of emotional distress, or like, they just people who are
frequency based.
Well, people who are susceptible to misery, because they seem to feed
they
on
want to
pain.
Torture people,
right?
And the other thing that's interesting about that too is that Victor, when he's with the son in the woods, and he tries to tell him, the son's telling Victor about how he lost a brother, and Victor's like, why are you telling me that? Like,
I don't want to know that.
Which was interesting to me, because since we were talking about whether or not he had any agency in creating things or whatever, maybe, if he knows about people's pain or about things in the past, especially if it's a person, that it can somehow be used against them. And, that's maybe why he didn't want to know anything.
It makes sense. It also, I think to add into that, like, I think we can at least pretty much agree that he can see the future to some degree, because he's digging 6 graves at the end of this and saying, I'm just trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Why he would specifically be digging 6 graves.
Yeah.
Now he could just be digging a random number. Like, I think,
like he's just
a few
trying to
people are going to
start.
die. And it's like, well, just, I'll just dig a bunch.
Just dig until I get exhausted.
Sure. So, but it's,
Yeah.
I would pretty much, because this whole episode takes place in the day.
Yes.
Right? So the next episode, stands to reason, will take place all at night. I'm going to assume 6 will die. This is the fog, right?
Mothman prophecy.
It's just, you mark my words, 6 people will die in the next episode. Specifically. He dug 6 graves, 6 will die. So he's going to have this foresight of things to come. So, as you said, I don't want to know this can be used against you because they're working through me. And, he still acts like a child. He's still stuck in the past.
Yes.
While seeing the future to a degree. I don't know if with his connection to the boy has brought something back out of him, because he hasn't been able to see that boy.
Right.
And he was like, so he's real, meaning that he saw him thinking maybe he made him up, and no one else in all that time has ever mentioned him. But no one, everyone's such a dick
they're
to
all
Victor.
very mean to him, and I mean,
And
in some ways, it's just that he's awkward and weird, and that's it. But he hasn't done anything malicious.
He's been there for 40 years.
Maybe. Like, what do you expect?
Maybe look at his backstory.
But I don't know. And he obviously mentions the 2-car thing, and how the last time he saw him was when the first 2 cars came. So, and he was obviously pretty young when that happened. But yeah, I don't know. I think that especially with the attention that he's getting from digging the graves, as well as the new family's father being like, hey, he was taking my son out into the woods and he's got a gun, I think that people are going to start questioning him more. And I have a feeling that there's going to be I don't know, I could see people like kind of rejecting it and him getting hurt as a result, which would really suck. But I could also see somebody taking him seriously and saving lives because of it.
I think he's going to get put in the box, and I think he's going to survive the night. And they're going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, are you one of them?
Like, after they find out with the gun and then the digging of the graves and all that stuff, they're going to push back on him, and he's going to do something that's going to get them to all be like, you got to put him in the box.
Well, and I mean, that's the village, right? The village has the box, and Colony House has their own methods for dealing with people. So if they agree to put him in the box, that's going to be a huge thing. But
we don't know their method.
We don't. I mean, we haven't seen anything yet. We just know that they tie newcomers up so that they don't freak out and like hurt everybody.
I didn't remember that they have their own thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, I think maybe the town people, like, I could see them pushing to put him in the box, but there'd be a fight as a result between the 2 communities.
Sure. This is our guy.
Yeah.
This is our problem. Yeah.
So.
I mean, we'll definitely have that war at some point. I mean, they've created 2 factions, right? 2 towns.
Which, I don't know. I mean, I get it. I get people, like, I get both sides of it. I think we talked about this the last video too. But also, like, in a situation like this, it feels like you should really be trying to unite as much as possible. Like, any further division that you could have between each other, like, on top of all the stress of being in this situation and with monsters, just feels like, unnecessary drama.
This is humans.
But yeah,
this is humans.
I don't know if
people
there's a way around it.
No.
So.
Every civilization and history of humans is like this. People are all about division and fighting amongst each other, especially in stressful times.
Yeah.
We don't band together. We, point fingers and try to find someone to blame, and it's terrible, and it is part of the human condition, and I don't know if we're capable of getting away from it. we've been raised with it. It's part of our DNA at this point. I want to believe that's not the truth, but time and time again, this is just what happens, you know? But anyway, yeah, I'll be really curious on what this, you know, software guy does with the radio.
Mm-hmm.
He took it off. He was very, like, frantic about it, grabbed it. He pulled it out of the wall. He ran out of there. So he clearly thinks he is going to be able to make contact or at least figure out what's going on. Or he, like, knew what that was. Like, oh, it just randomly picks up a signal. I know what this is. I got this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where he thinks he's taking it, though. Why he wouldn't keep it right where it was, already plugged into the, you know, the antenna and all that stuff. He must think, I'm going to assume, because he's staying with the deputy, right?
Yeah, he's temporarily in their
So
house.
that's his place, his current place of residence. So that's one option.
Yeah.
And then the other option would be
the bunker.
down in the little bunker.
Yeah.
What he would be doing with it down there, I don't know. Maybe he thinks he can communicate with them down there.
Maybe.
You know? He's going to talk to that ghost. I mean, he took the deputy down there, and the deputy was like, okay, like, I know it's a hard time.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't patronize me. So I'm going to go with he takes it down in the bunker and tries to communicate with whoever was trying to contact him with the Boulder corpse. For what reason, I don't know. I'm completely fucking off base. The kid is going to go through that tree at some point.
Yeah, I think so.
Where that will end him up, I have no idea. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is a time warp too, and he'll be able to go back and see Victor as a kid and then walk back through and see like different
Points.
eras of
Be very
what was
interesting.
there. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that's wild. But I can only assume, because the tree's not big enough for a person to go in that's an adult from what I could see.
I mean,
the kid could fit in there, but I don't think Boyd could fit in there or anybody,
probably
right?
not. But we don't know. There might be other parts, that are like that aren't a tree. There could be other places that you just like randomly walk somewhere and you no clip into the back rooms.
No clip into the back rooms. Yeah, we watched the found footage backrooms YouTube short and all of its little companion pieces like today and yesterday. That's funny. Good little tie-in. Yeah, so 6 people will die
6 will die
in the next episode, which will mostly take place at night. I can pretty much guarantee that. And if that is accurate, who will die?
I don't know. I feel like we haven't. I mean, we know 6 people for sure, but they're all like main characters. It feels like. So I don't know. I feel like it will probably be people that we don't know as well. Like maybe the girl that steals the shirts.
Sure.
And like. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know
probably-
any other people. Like,
Probably at least 3 randos.
Yeah.
Right? It is
For
at
sure.
least 3 randos and 1 person that's had a few lines.
Yeah.
So the person who stole the shirt would definitely be a good pick there because she's nobody really. I also think the daughter who now has a room with the couple in the house, there will be some kind of a love triangle going on there.
Yeah.
I don't know which way yet. I don't know if it'll be a 3-way kind of thing where they're all into each other, and that's just they're working her closer to their bed, and it's a joint effort, or if she's going to start having some kind of romantic fling with her behind her back. That's because this is a show about drama. I would assume that's the route they'll go because that's going to create tensions and drama. And once you're in the house, you have to stay in the house, right? So then you fucked somebody's boyfriend, and you guys are living together in a town you can't run out of.
Yeah, it's
right?
awful.
That's there's gonna have to be a romantic struggle somewhere in this show, and this is clearly the one.
Yeah, I think it's more geared towards the daughter and the boyfriend because of the way that she acts around him, and we haven't seen a whole lot of interaction, but when she is, she's kind of giving him the like puppy dog eyes.
100%.
But with the girl that's her mentor, like there definitely feels like a sisterly bond and like a friendship, and nothing
There's
really
nothing sexual.
No,
I agree.
So I think that's
I'm
more
just hoping.
You're just like, I hope it's the other way. I mean, maybe.
No, I don't care. I don't think so.
I don't think it's gonna be that.
It'll be like, I trusted you.
Yeah.
Right.
Which will be interesting because her character is like, I really like her character. I think that she's, very positive and optimistic and trying to make the best out of a bad
situation. This is why we need to know people's names, because you're talking about the girl
I'm talking about the girlfriend
who already lives there.
The mentor.
Who's been there for a while.
I think that she's very sweet and she seems really kind and caring. So to see her be pushed to a point where she's like, being mean or irrational or anything like that would be interesting, from the drama perspective. But I don't want her to get there, obviously. I'd like her to not have pain.
Oh, it's happening.
It's gonna happen.
It's happening. I mean, I would assume this show wants to go multiple seasons.
Yeah, people are gonna die.
There's gonna have to be drama, right? Yeah. And what I'm looking forward to is who's the next new inhabitant.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
It's super exciting and a really fun way to bring
new characters into the show.
A creative way to bring new characters into the show. Yeah, I'm very interested because I know that we're going to get a character at some point that gets brought in that is going to be that person that's like, none of this is real, but like even more than the druggy software designer, like they're going to be like, none of it's real, unlock all the doors, break things, and a lot of people I think will get killed because of it. So that'll be cool to see who that tweaker is, but or even just one of the other like people that live there that just breaks, right? Because the deputy talks about how everyone's like initially they think that the monsters are the things that they need to be the most worried about, but really it's what the town and being in that situation.
Well, we already have that character. Kill the boy.
Sure. Right? We do, but yeah, I guess that's true.
You already have that character.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
So maybe she'll be the one that's pushed to kill a lot of people.
No, she 100% will, because she already has. She's gotten 3 people killed already.
Yeah. She could die. She could be stopped.
She will be stopped, but she will kill more people. She'll be the one responsible
for the
six dying, because she's going to go after the boy. And she's going to be able to traverse the landscape at night because they have a truce. So she was able to, which she already did.
Yeah.
In episode 2, I think.
Yeah.
She was able to go out at night and leave the door open after she killed the guy in the bunk and left it open for the grandfather and his caretaker to be axed. So she has that special ability. She has the hall pass.
The hall pass.
That she can get across town.
The monster hall pass.
Without being killed. So yeah. Now there's only 3 people in that house though.
Yeah.
Right. So she might come for him at night, but yeah, how do we get and they're not dying. I don't see any of those 3 dying.
I don't either, but it would be wild if they did.
If they killed all 3 of them?
They killed all 3 of them,
no
and then
way.
the daughter's just left and survives because she was in Colony House. There's no way.
I'd love it,
happen.
but I
would
know
too.
most of the audience would be like, I'm out.
That's like, those are our starting people.
Good.
So,
yeah, we just watched the Psycho movies.
Yeah, I would be great with that. I think that's really exciting.
Marry and Crane the fuck out of these people. I'm fine with it. Game of Thrones me.
Yeah.
Kill off some major characters you would never expect to happen in a million years. But they always waited till episode 9 to do that. It always happened in the second to last episode of the season.
So they did have a pattern.
A lot of the times. But regardless. Anyways, all right. So I think we guessed enough.
Yes.
And
we speculated.
What was I right on? I was right on something too. Since I patted you on the back, I have to pat myself on the back about something I was right about.
You were right about something. What was it?
It's not necessary.
What was it though? You were like, I was right about that. Boyd's wife dying. Yes, that's what it was.
That would be a wife that died. Pretty easy call.
Yeah.
Pretty easy call. And as soon as they were like Thomas, I was like, oh, that's their kid that died.
And in the episode.
And then we get it within this episode. And I was like, damn, I was going to be right about that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
But you were right about it.
I was right about it,
Just
but it took like 10 minutes later. Yeah. It wasn't an episode or two. But yeah, anyways, until next week.
Bye.
Bye.